And welcome guys to another little video. Now today's video will be over how to change and lock buttons on a massive scale. So let's say you've got this little shop button right here and everything, and we're going to go into our canvas, and I'm pretty sure I've got no UI sprites in the works, so I'm going to put this locking one here, which is just be plain black, and the normal sprites for all these will be, let's say, I don't know, UI sprite. Why not, right? So as we know, we got our highlights and our normals and all that good stuff. Well, in our game we can buy stuff. That's what this tab's for. Okay, this is our highlight, is a normal square. Well, when we click this, we get our little cash flow to finally update, but we also get a message, our build is called. Now what this does is it rebuilds every button kind of in the game. That's the whole point of it. So when we get to a cash flow problem, like I've got 10 cash and we'll hit one of these buttons, it doesn't matter which one, they all go dark. So everything can't be called anymore. Nothing happens, no button events, no nothing. Okay, no more highlighting, no more anything. And this can be achieved pretty easily. I mean, there's a few hoops and everything that you've got to go through, but for the most part, that's what this one is over. Now, there's a few concepts and a few classes on this. Is you got to have your buttons pretty generic and everything, first of all. Secondly, you're going to have some way to access all of them all at the same time, but dynamically be able to change it, because some buttons get destroyed maybe in your game, some buttons, you know, just flat out just are always there. Ours are always there once they're unlocked, so we don't really have to worry about, you know, hey, destroying or any of that garbage. So I've devised a simple event that will recalculate the cost of stuff, just stuff in general. And I've only integrated it into the shop right now because I wanted to keep it really simple. So in our rebuild, we have B event inherits from button master. We set a reference into our base with button master. Okay, this is a setter, and that's it. So we're setting it to this, and then we're overriding a public function. This function must be public because we're using it as being already in the game, in the world. It's attached to a game object, and it just floats around and just gets that kind of event, right? Well, for the most case, it just loops through a list and then calls blist I our build object. Okay, our build object is just a public function, doesn't really do anything. Okay, that's why it doesn't matter if these are public whatsoever. Alright, so in our buy button here, we've got a few things. We've got the cost and all that good stuff. We've got this stuff. We've got our do work. But every single time we push the button for build this or buy this as a job, we go bmaster.rebuild, which, you know, this function right here goes through and it calls another function just to rebuild our buttons, right? That's what this whole loop deal right event T is over. It just calls these functions. And what this does in this button is has enough. We create a bool variable. We go b build bool, and it returns yes or no. Then is locked is a bool that's in our shop button. Okay, in our shop button we have a few things. We've got s locks as a new sprite because we need a locking sprite, right? Or maybe you do a mask or whatever. I chose a sprite, but you could do some other cheap like lower logic thing or whatnot. And then I put this protected bool, so that way when I inherit I have access to this. I mean, you could put this public, but I wouldn't. I think it should be protected because this is being manipulated, and you shouldn't be able to just call get component and manipulate this. That would be kind of dumb and pointless. And the on-click event is locked equals false. Then we can do work. So if it's not locked, we can do work and change the button around and all that stuff. Well, this stuff really doesn't change too much, but we are going to have to change a few things. This buying key, we're going to have a lock sprite. So our lock sprite has to be public in our serializable script. Locked item. We'll just call it locked item. Save that, and that will be fine. It's a scriptable object. It's no big deal, right? But we also got to go here and put this as this dot slocked equals key dot locked item, because we have to set a sprite to what it's supposed to be. So the exit and enter and everything responds to is locked. Okay, it's a bool value. It just checks yes or no, and this is when the mouse goes over something and exits. Enter when it enters a sprite zone, like a little square. Like if I enter this blue, that's on enter. Exit is when I leave the blue and go into the black. Okay, that's when those events are called. Click is when I click on like the blue stuff, okay, on screen, or you know, the sprite in itself as an example. Okay, so it just does work. And then in our inheritance script, we override that logic to specific stuff. So in buying, we have an interface called rebuild, and all this interface does is call our build object. Our build object. That's it. Pretty simple, nothing big. Okay, so we integrate the interface into our system. I went with the interface, that way I could go with any button style and it still be able to be called. I don't have to specify if it this, that, or anything else. I can just straight up use the interface and then code it inside the button in our own little logic. So bmaster.rebuild is, you know, after it gets clicked, and bbuild does all the work for us. So this has enough is a protected right here. It could be a private or whatever because we don't really inherit from it, but I put it protected. But it can be like this and it wouldn't even matter. Okay? It would not matter. Now I create a bool variable so that way this function returns yes or no. Now this is locked. The problem with it is if we can do something, it will return yes. So then the lock variable goes to yes. You actually can put this little squiggly thing, you know, the explanation or whatever you want to call that, in, and you get the reverse of the bool. So when this returns yes, this will return no, because I'm giving it the opposite of temp. Okay, little way to flip the variable over and not have to worry about anything, right? It'll give you the opposite of it. And then I just return the temp, because this lock thing, if it's locked, then it sucks, we can't do anything. So this rebuild object has enough. Okay, that's all it does. It's a private function, and it just sets the sprites. That's all it does. That's the logic for setting the sprites. Okay, but when we call is enough, it takes care of the locking of our variable. Okay, this is more like the logic side of it, where it goes yes, no, maybe, and then this does, hey, rebuild this, set the sprite to either lock or normal. Okay, but in this instance right here, when we do buy and we give it a scriptable object right here, we call the base version of it, which I do believe this does. Yeah, it sets the sprite stuff in our base version for shop button, but the actual logic to do everything is in here. When it comes to buying, what we're buying, the cost, the amount, this right here is for the internal list. Okay, this must be scripted exactly this way. Okay, this right here is just something else that we inherit from and get stuff, but in order for this to work correctly, you must have it protected, static list rebuild with the interface and rebuild. Okay, because we use the interface for all of our buttons to parse it out. So hey, we don't care what the button's main thing is doing, if it's for towers or if it's for buying money or buying resources or just buying more enemies or buying a level. We don't care. We want the button to rebuild itself and just do what it's supposed to be written for. Okay, so we go through the list, and the reason why it's static list like this is because there can only be one of these. There can be 100 different versions of button master. It will not care about that. It could have 100 versions of this, but it can only have one version of this. That's it. Plain and simple in the game. Will not allow another version of this. Okay, the compiler, the game, and everything takes this variable, and it will always just be a single one. That's why when we do our button and we add it into our list that we automatically inherit from, okay, we add it to the list, and this list is available to all the buttons. Okay, so then buying does its logic here, and then we go our build object, which does our build object, which sets the sprite stuff and also does this stuff. So it takes care of all the main work for us, and that gives you a button that goes, hey, it either is locked or it's this. And the beauty about this is if you click on a single button where you have like 9 gazillion or anything like that, I mean, you could have 100 different buttons. Okay, let's say my button told me, hey, spend 15 gold, and that's all I have. Well, I don't want to go to the next button and go, hey, spend 15 gold. Well, guess what? That button didn't change its sprite or anything like that. And each individual button, I don't want some form of update running because it's pointless, and not to mention it's pretty heavy to have an update running for every single button, or try to do a get component every single frame on every single button when you don't have to. Okay, this just gives you a single event and then tells all the buttons to do its job. You'll have you may have that little, if you get like a lot of buttons in your menu, you could have a little lag spike, but it'll only be like that single frame. Okay, it might take it down from 40 to 35 maybe frames, or from 70 frames to whatever. Okay, but it's only going to be a single frame, so the processor and everything else can go, hey, this heavy event happens once, but it'll rev right back up, and the player may not even actually ever see a stutter or a shutter or whatever. You may not even notice it. Okay, because A, you're in a menu, and B, you're not going to be sitting there spamming the buttons like a gazillion times anyway, because you'll run out of money, or it's just going to be like, hey, why am I doing this? Hello? You know, kind of maybe pointless, but at the same time, hey, you never know. But this is one way of doing this, okay? I'm not saying this is the best solution. I'm not saying it's the worst. But you definitely need to find some way to get an event all the way across for every single button. And this seems like it's pretty fair. You know, without going some crazy update like logic stuff. Okay? So, like I was saying, you know, that's how you can do that. Alright? But in the meantime, like I said, we've got our scriptable objects, which does our buying stuff. We will go in here and wire all this stuff in with a lock. Boom. A normal sprite, which could be our, what, sprite thingy here. Now if we go back into the game, we can see that we pretty much changed it. Okay, we go here, okay, this is all the same. Okay, we buy stuff, we got 90 cash, and then it goes down. I mean, if you actually look at the performance, you don't really even see any performance hit whatsoever, right? And that's the whole point of it. Okay, even with the debug.log, it's pretty. Why didn't it give me a is lock thingy? Oh, it did. Oh, wait, really? Did it not like let me? Okay, what sprite is this? It's solid black. It should do that. Why are you doing the locky thing? Did I not save? I probably did not save. That's probably what that whole thingy is. You gotta save, guys. When stuff doesn't work and stuff, you gotta go into your editor. Don't touch anything. Just spam save. I spam save a lot, so I'm not going to sit there and lie to you. But like I said, I mean, in my frames, I'm still sitting here at 70 some. I'm just going to spam the crap out of it, okay? Just there. I didn't even see it drop 70 on here when it's like just riding at 70. I mean, sometimes it goes 80. But, I mean, the frames per second doesn't even seem like it's being affected, right? And this is running just perfectly fine. So now I can't, if that, the event's not being called. So all these buttons are pretty much dead. Okay? They're not doing anything whatsoever now. So, bam, there you go. No buying, no heavy functions going into the UI system now. Everything just gets put where it's supposed to be. Okay? So hopefully this gives you guys an idea on how to rebuild buttons and do some form of event later on. because, you know, it's useful. Now, if you're wondering where the T event is, it's just attached to this game object, the event system, and you've already seen that. And there might be some changes on here that you may not have seen yet, but that's okay. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal at all. So, you know, remember guys, this is War over, and you know, like, hit subscribe, and do all that cool YouTube stuff so that we know, hey, to continue the project and you're very interested in it. But this will probably also be an example in the FPS of some form. I haven't decided on which direction to go on some of it, so you guys will probably see something similar there. But remember guys, to like, hit subscribe, and I'm going to end the video here on this note. So thanks guys, peace out, and this is War over and out.